A live look at Ford Field this morning where a major shakeup in Detroit sports is happening. Say goodbye to your Michigan Panthers. The United football team reportedly moving away from Ford Field ahead of the next 2026 season. This story started breaking yesterday. We're going to talk to the man who broke the story, James Larsen from Pro Football Newsroom. James, thanks for joining us this morning. I'm never going to ask you to reveal your sources, but can you kind of walk us through the process of how all this started unfolding? Was it just yesterday?
It's been a process that has been ongoing for the last few weeks and really goes back to the last several months of the UFL trying to really find some stability in the structure of the league moving forward. And it's no secret that this past 2025 season wasn't ideal for the UFL from a business standpoint when you look at the declining TV ratings and declining attendance across most markets. Now, the interesting factor here is Michigan was a market that actually showed a lot of promise and success. But because of Ford Field and just the cost that it takes to be able to play at a venue like that, this is a decision that mainly on the business side of things made sense for the UFL. Of course, nothing is confirmed from the league quite yet. You know, it's still something that could be fluid and could change. But as of right now, the direction they're going in, it's likely that we don't see the Michigan Panthers in 2026.
Well, especially because we reached out to the PR team for the Michigan Panthers, and those folks have told us they've already been laid off and no longer have a job. So I think it's safe to say this is definitely happening. You know, it's surprising, as you mentioned, though, because Michigan was one of the top performing teams in the league, not only on the field, but by attendance, by merchandise sold, by season tickets that they were able to sell. Was there, or I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, was there a conversation about, okay, maybe Ford Field is a too expensive venue. Maybe we can play at Wayne State or a larger high school venue instead of moving the team?
Those conversations were definitely held, and I would hope that in the case that relocation doesn't work in one of these markets, that they bring these talks back to Michigan, because this is the market that I believe deserves a UFL team. Like you said, we saw increased attendance this past season. We saw a buzz around the Michigan Panthers. The team itself was so successful. They played in the UFL championship. Of course, it was not the result that they wanted, but this is a franchise that really was showing growth, especially with the team here that they had locally in place. But the UFL, having fired basically everybody except for one person in the UFL front office here in Michigan, it's kind of safe to say that it certainly seems like they're going in a different direction.
Yeah. We had our Detroit Sports Plus team on here about 30 minutes ago, Derek Hutchinson, and he had mentioned that maybe one of the reasons they were looking to leave Detroit is because it's so saturated already, and that an NFL team is always going to overshadow and take revenue from a minor league team like the UFL. And maybe looking at these other markets that they don't have professional sports is the only way the league can sustain itself. What do you think?
It's definitely a good point, and when you look at the markets that the UFL is targeting to try to get into, it makes sense, right? You're looking at Louisville, Kentucky, and potentially Boise, Idaho, or a place like Orlando in Florida that doesn't have a pro football team. So that is definitely something that we could see happen in the sense of the UFL. This is a make or break season 3 coming up for the league, and they need to make sure they're in the places that they can see the best growth. And this is the path that they're taking right now.
So you say make or break, and obviously you're an insider. You've been tied to the Panthers in the league for many years. If they don't see a successful 26 season, is that the end of the league?
As much as I hate to say this, I wouldn't have much confidence in them making it past 2026 if the metrics don't improve and if they don't see, stronger TV ratings, stronger attendance, and get, better marketing in these markets. If they don't see a combination of those three things, there is definitely a good chance that pro spring football in the United States might not be a thing anymore.
Yeah, all right, so you've been spending a lot of time with the Panthers. I know you live here in Metro Detroit, and you're covering the entire league, but Michigan Panthers are home for you. What's the sentiment among the team and the players? How are they dealing with all this?
Everyone's pretty much in shock. I mean, no one on the team was really aware up until some of this news came around last night. So I know everyone's kind of just trying to figure out, okay, what's the next steps? And the good news is that when it comes to relocation in a league like this, the Michigan Panthers, their staff, their personnel, and whichever players decide to return to the league, they would be able to play in that new location. During the UFL season, everybody is based and lives in Arlington, Texas, and they fly out to the cities for each game day. So everyone will be living in Arlington anyway, just like it was last year. It's not like folks from Michigan are going to have to move somewhere else. They were already going to be living in Arlington during the regular season in the UFL. So at least on that end, it doesn't change up too many things for them.
That's really surprising. I had no idea there was a home base. Is that a portion or a discussion about the costs anyway? That if they're flying the teams to every city for every game, maybe they should look at remodeling how it's done?
The Arlington hub model is actually designed to save on costs. They've got some deals in place with airlines. They've got a really good deal in place with the city of Arlington and Dallas and Fort Worth, that area where, they have the Arlington Renegades. They all play at Choctaw Stadium, and they have the UFL headquarters now based down there in Arlington. It's a place where all 8 teams can have access to really phenomenal professional resources. So that cost model, even with the flying, compared to what it would be like to have all 8 teams housed in their individual cities, it is actually cheaper for the league right now to stick with that model.
Interesting. Okay, so 8 teams in the league right now. Is there a conversation of going under that number to try to keep the league afloat, or is it kind of an all 8 or nothing at this point?
At this point, it would be all 8 or nothing. It becomes very difficult to have a true professional league with less than 8 teams, especially with the formatting that they have and with the strong TV partnerships that the league also has between Fox Sports and ESPN, ABC, and Disney. You're going to want to have at least 8 teams in a league like this. Otherwise, everyone's totally watching the same teams, and it just gets redundant, and it makes it difficult to have a longer schedule as well. So as of right now, the focus is to stick with 8 teams or nothing at all.
Why do you think that the ratings and the money aren't there? Is it just that there's not an appetite for more football? Because you'd think there would be.
There definitely is an appetite for more football, and this is what we saw when the XFL came back in 2020 originally under Vince McMahon. The numbers were incredible. They were selling out some stadiums. The TV ratings were in the millions for all of their games. But if you look at the landscape and how it's shifted now, there's just been a lack of local marketing, I think, in some of these cities, and a focus more on global branding rather than grassroots and feet on the ground. And I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. There's lots of people in the Detroit metro area that have no clue that the Michigan Panthers played here. There's a lot of people that I'll talk to, and I'll tell them that, oh, yes, I cover the UFL, and they'll be like, oh, where do they play? And I'm like, they're here. They're actually here in Michigan, and they're like, really? I had no idea. So that's the type of thing that I know the league was working towards improving, and that's something that'll be key for them in 2026 if they want to continue to see growth.
Yeah, and I think, talking to you and others, this approach probably is the best way to go, looking at markets that don't have a professional team and that they can probably get support, and some families saying, yeah, I'll spend 30, 40, 50 bucks on a ticket and go see a game versus not being able to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where the UFL, they have to make decisions for the future at this point. And, between the financials not always being so pretty, like football is such an expensive thing to operate, right? You look at between paying the players and the stadium operations and all the league employees across the board, even though the UFL runs a pretty bare bones operation as is, it's still very, very expensive. So if you're not in a market that you can see foreseeable profit coming from, it's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah. Okay, James Larsen, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on breaking that story last night.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
All right, take care.